Um, Good afternoon, everybody. I think second last session of the day, so you made it. Thank you very much for coming here and attending this session. My name is Kamran Naqvi. I'm principal architect at Broadcom, and with me I have
Lumir, Honus. I am also principal network architect in AT&T.
Thanks. So, is this working? Okay, I'll just use this then. Okay. So this is the agenda for our today's discussion. So I'll start off by discussing what is the promise and the opportunity with SONiC, but then at the same time, what are some of the challenges we still face. I'll go on then and talk about, I mentioned some of the collaboration that we have done with AT&T on some other open projects. And then I will talk about, I'll introduce you to the management framework that Broadcom developed for SONiC and contributed back to the community. Lumir will then take over and he will talk about the AT&T SDII solution, how the SONiC integration went, and how this can be used to deploy SONiC at a large scale. So, SONiC has been getting a lot of traction over the last few years. The SONiC community, the SONiC ecosystem has been expanding every year. The number of customers who are deploying SONiC in production, that has also been increasing at a rapid state. Recently, you might have seen this report from Dell'Oro, who said that we already have more than 6 million ports in production running SONiC. And by 2027, SONiC market will expand to $6 billion. So a lot of positive vibe around adoption of SONiC, and we at Broadcom see it as a validation of our vision and the validation of the whole SONiC community vision. As you know, Broadcom, we've been contributing to SONiC since early days. Today, Broadcom is the largest contributor to SONiC and SCI project after Microsoft. So we have not only hardened SONiC, we have enabled new use cases into SONiC. So when we initially started working with SONiC, what we noticed was that because of where SONiC came from, there was a lot of focus on the mega-scaler deployment, on the mega-scaler features, and it lacked the features for the enterprises. So what we did, we started adding features like VXLAN EVPN into SONiC, multi-tenancy into SONiC. We added features like NAT, time synchronization. We added this whole new management framework into SONiC that I'm going to talk about. So we believe with all this contribution that we are making and the whole community is making, we believe that SONiC today has all the feature set required, all the functionality required for the data center use cases. But still we see there are customers who are a bit apprehensive, who are still sitting on the line, right? And they're specifically in certain verticals, right? So for example, financial verticals, and there are people who are still a bit conservative. So when I talk to them, I see that they do aspire to adopt disaggregation. They want to get out of this vendor lock-in. They want to embark on this journey of open networking, but there are challenges, right? Elephant in the room, the biggest challenge is always lack of enterprise clock support. Now, in my view, that challenge has been addressed to certain level. So players like Dell, players like, for example, StoreDisk, there are other players who can provide support on SONiC. So this first concern has been alleviated to some certain level. But look at the second issue, lack of supported key turn automation and orchestration solution. Yes, there are a few solutions out there, they are good, but still they are limited in number. Enterprise customers are looking for options, multiple choices to choose between, to choose a right key turn solution for them. That's another challenge which is out there. And the third challenge is lack of in-house expertise. I call it fear of unknown, actually. Many of the enterprise customers, look at the large enterprises, look at the top 100 list. Those enterprises, those customers are used to working with the professional services organization of their OEMs. All the engineers, architects they have certification from a certain company, right? They like certain way of doing things. And the professional services point that I was mentioning earlier, it's close to my heart because before I joined Broadcom, I used to work for an OEM. I worked there for 12 years in the advanced services and professional services organization. So I know from the first-hand experience that these big enterprise customer, they rely a lot on the expertise of the professional services engineers, not just for the architecture and design, not just for the low-level design, but for the ongoing optimization of their networks. So when I speak to these enterprise customers, I see that they want to adopt open networking and SONiC, but they're looking for a credible company to stand behind this solution and provide them support, provide them professional services, not just for day zero and day one, but an ongoing basis. And I believe based on what we are going to announce here today, what we are going to talk about here in the form of SDII, this will alleviate, this will address the last two concerns that I mentioned on this slide. And the first, obviously, as well. Now, AT&T and Broadcom have a long history of collaborating and partnering on the open source projects. More recently, through this open compute platform, we worked on cell-site gateway router, then distributed disaggregated chassis project. And through these connections, I'm just looking at the time, it's going fast. So through this connection, we got to know about SDII team and the Lumir's team. And when we looked at the SDN controller they have, we think this is a very good automation tool to deploy SONiC at a large scale. So we started working with Lumir and the team, and we helped them integrate SONiC with their SDN controller. And at the heart of this integration, and Lumir is going to talk more about the SDN controller and how it's solved this large-scale automation problem. But at the heart of this integration is the management framework that Broadcom developed and contributed back to the community. So I've got a link here to the GitHub HLD, so you can look at it in detail. I'll just touch upon some of the key points of this management framework. So you can see the framework allows 3 ways of configuration. You can use CLI, you can also use GNMI or RESTconf. Internally, this framework is doing conversion between OC YANG and the Redis DB schema. An additional thing it is doing is that it also has a config validation function. So before any configuration, anything is written on the Redis database, it goes through a validation process. For this AT&T deployment, they are using GNMI side. So let me just double click on that, and then I will hand over to Lumir. So the AT&T SDN controller sits on the top as the GNMI client, and the GNMI server is running on the SONiC switch. You can see that we support, GNMI server support operations like get, subscribe, and set. So when a call comes from the client, the corresponding RPC gets called in the request handler, whether it is get, subscribe, or set. And from there on, your request is handled by the translib infra. And the whole purpose in life for translib infra is to convert the OC YANG request into the Redis DB schema, the schema which is understood by the SONiC apps. And when the request is going back from Redis DB to the AT&T SDN controller, you can understand the conversion is happening in the reverse order. So this is how this management framework is working. Hopefully it makes sense. You can see more details in the HLD. The link is there. I will now hand over to Lumir.
Let me talk about the AT&T and managed data center solutions which we have. So I'm a technical lead for, and now we are calling it like software-defined IT infrastructure. It's basically an automated, solution where we drive the high-level requirements which the customer has into the, concrete implementation of the of the intent on the fabric or on the various actually solutions today. It's not called. Originally, it was called software-defined data center solution, but now we've expanded, and we are also including the firewall automation, load balancer automation, and so on. But our journey started maybe 6-7 years ago, where and I'm on the part of the managed outsourcing in the AT&T. We had several hundred data centers, and basically we were facing the challenge where the quality of the implementation was driven by the quality of the team who was doing the implementation on that given customer. So what we were really trying to do is to kind of, abstract the basic principles, define the best practices for configuration of every single, vendor fabric, and basically lock down the engineers to, be forced to be applying the best practices, across various heterogeneous environments. And, back in the days, the market was somewhere else, than it is today. So we've actually, as I said, we started 6-7 years ago, and we made some choices, and I will explain how our architecture, basically works. So in a principle, we have the software-defined networking portal, which is the interface where the customers and AT&T operators and operators are actually logging in. And on that portal, we basically have a northbound API exposed from the SDN controller. On that portal, users are getting capability, being able to make atomic changes on top of the fabric or top of the network in this case. And they are doing the actions like, I'm adding a VLAN, I'm adding the routed VLAN, I'm setting up the static routes or BGP routes and so on. And then we have an abstraction layer where we basically take those almost universal northbound APIs and we translate them into vendor-specific implementation. And we are using various southbound protocols for various types of the solutions. We have a Cisco application-centric infrastructure when we are using a REST, REST API. We have EVPN solutions from Cisco and from Juniper when we are using a netconf. And basically for SONiC, we have decided to utilize the GNMI communication, and that's what Kamran was showing before. So I just want to say, kind of a first challenges we started a long time ago with this activity. Like when we took the SONiC in the very beginning, and we actually had to go and pass through all the operational checks and readiness so we can start deploying it for our customers. The SONiC wasn't really where it is today, right? So I remember the first half of the year, people were saying like, yeah, no, there is no way we will be running this in production. The CLI troubleshooting tools were not there, and we couldn't convince people to debug the Linux, internals. But that was actually, and that was the first time when I saw the SONiC is something, really a big thing, because the speed, how it evolved was amazing, right? Like I used to work, or when I have different vendors, there is a feature, we are waiting a year and a half to get something, fixed. Here it was kind of rapidly faster. So as I said, we actually worked together. We were working on the GNMI client. Broadcom was working on GNMI server implementation, and we've successfully integrated it together. Yeah, and I'm out of the time again. We have, we are modeling basically in our controller the, functions of the switch as a POJO or Java POJO object, and then our kind of special thing is that we read out the state from the fabric. as it is configured right now, and then we are doing just kind of atomic transactions on the fabric, so the real device is source of truth for us. And I will close with a call to action, so it's possible to buy from AT&T basically a managed data center service.
Yeah. There is the reference to what Lumir was talking earlier, and the last link here is my YouTube channel. You can just search it for Love to Network. More people go there, more ad I get. So that is good. Please keep going there. Thank you very much. Any questions? You want to come here?
Yeah, I would say it's on the box, and it's more pragmatic decision. If we lose the connectivity from the controller, it doesn't impact the fabric. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.